recorded. Just started recording it, and we're doing that for reference purposes because I imagine that there will be a lot of questions on this RFP, and I want to make sure that we're doing our best to communicate and answer any questions that anyone has. And so this will be uploaded to our website following this webinar. All righty. So KFEC is excited to announce a request for proposals for an online asynchronous financial literacy education curriculum and platform. The motivation for this RFP is to provide a financial literacy education for all Kentucky high school schools and high school students. There are communities within the Commonwealth of Kentucky that do not have the same resources as others. And that's why we wanted to provide this, because we want to be able to provide a financial literacy education to all Kentucky high schoolers that want it. The motivation for this was born out of House Bill 132, which mandated financial education at the high school level. And then again, with House Bill 139, which established the Kentucky Financial Empowerment Commission. We're really excited about this RFP because we want to be able to provide a financial literacy education to all Kentucky high schoolers that want it. And we want to be considerate of all individuals' abilities, regardless of an individual's internet access, school resources. The provider and the Kentucky Financial Empowerment Commission will be able to provide a financial education to all high schools and high school students. To get into some details of how the logistics of the proposal will work, as well as the submission process, there will be a two-stage submission process. There will be a letter of intent that includes a general overview of what you intend to provide to the state of Kentucky and the Kentucky Financial Empowerment Commission. And then all submitted proposals at every stage of this are confidential and will not be shared outside of KFEC. All proposals are considered sealed proposals. And then finally, there will be no paper applications requested. All proposals will be submitted online through the KFEC website at the link that is here on this slide. So to go in depth on the timeline for this, these are the dates for the RFP. So here we are today with the webinar for best practices, and then 1 month from now on December 17th, the RFP letters of intent are due. And then on January 31st, the organizations approved and denied will be notified, and those approved will be given the full RFP and will be moved on to the full submission process. The full proposals will be due on February 28th. And then we will take the next month to determine the winner of the RFP, and the winner of it will be announced on March 31st. And then again, to reiterate, the proposals will be fully submitted online. So that is a brief overview of the project. Before I open up the floor for some questions, I am going to just go over some frequently asked questions that I anticipate, some questions I anticipate us getting. So is there a cost limit for this proposal? There is not a cost limit outlined in the proposal. And so take that into consideration. Are there any limits on indirect costs for universities? There are no limits on indirect costs for universities. What accessibility requirements are there? I want to emphasize the importance of being considerate of all groups. As I mentioned at the top of this conversation, regardless of an individual's abilities, internet access, or school resources, we want to be able to provide them a financial education. And so this is something that is not accessibility. There are no accessibility requirements within the RFP. However, it is something that should be strongly considered when you outline your proposal that you submit. What flexibility is there for in-person and online delivery of the content? So the proposal is a online asynchronous financial literacy education curriculum and platform. What that means is that the education should be delivered online in an asynchronous fashion, meaning someone can pick it up and put it down at their convenience. And when I say curriculum and platform, curriculum meaning that it works through a set of lesson plans that cover financial literacy topics that are outlined by the Kentucky Department of Education. And those that resource is listed in the RFP. But beyond that, if there's a relationship or a request from a school that is using this online platform to do in-person content, in-person delivery of some sort, is up to the provider on how they would like to approach that relationship. And then finally, if you have any other questions, you can contact me. Questions will be posted. All questions that are asked to me will be posted online on our FAQ website, on the FAQ portion of our website, but they will be anonymized. And so there's no need to worry about that. So that is an overview of the proposal. I will be uploading the full proposal to the link that is here on this website, on this slide, excuse me, and the submission form will be on there as well. Again, that's all virtual. I'll open up and also here's my contact information. Please reach out to me if you have any questions whatsoever. My phone number is also on there, but I will now open up the floor to any questions anyone may have.
Matt, if I may, so in putting this all together, et cetera, what about professional development, training, and all of that? Should that be line items separately, or should that be contained within the whole entire proposal? How are you looking for that to be developed and implemented?
So what do you mean by line items separately?
Oh, I'm talking about, okay, so there is the product and then there is the training. We could always, make those separate line items that, the training would be X amount, for each session, webinar, whatever it might be, and those could be line itemed out. And then there's the product. Or do you want all of that combined?
I would prefer to have that combined, because it's important to outline in your proposal how the content will be delivered. And if there is a requirement or a desire on the provider's side to bring teachers up to a certain level of proficiency to deliver the content, then that should be noted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
I have a question. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate it exactly, but since this is going to be delivered to high schoolers, those who want it, I guess, in the state, will there be, I guess I'm thinking if they visit the site, they pick a unit, complete it, and then they want to come back another day to complete a different unit, or partially completed a unit, come back the next day or the next week to complete the rest of it. Will this platform require some sort of login? Because then there's the issue of collecting data, right? Collecting personally identifiable data from the underage people using this website. So I guess the question is, do you guys have an idea of whether you want high schoolers to log in and what level of data you want the platform to report to the Kentucky Financial Empowerment Commission? I think I don't know if I'm being super clear, and I think I'm trying to figure out what I'm asking myself, but I guess there is a model where you could just have it, anyone participating in the classes online would be anonymous, or we would collect information on any individual visiting the website, kind of requiring them to create a login and so forth. And I'm just saying there might be, I don't know the laws necessarily around privacy, particularly with under 18 or just students in general, what we want to be collecting.
Yeah, Peter, thank you for the question. And I believe I understand what you're asking. Please help me if my answer isn't sufficient. So due to the asynchronous nature that we are requesting for this, and due to the logistical differences that every school encounters, when they, quite simply, when are they able to fit this in their math class or social studies class as it's outlined in the Kentucky Department of Education standards, that is the desire, that's the motivation for the asynchronous nature of it. By that, it is important for the individual to pick up their progress from where they left off, if that is through some sort of login that they create, or if it's or through cookies or some other way they are able to maintain or recall their progress in the modules provided by the provider. To make a comment about the data side of that, I think it would be very valuable, I think it'd be very valuable for there to be pre and post tracking on that. It's important to have to be able to know that individual 0001 had a pre-test score of X and then a post-test score of Y. But beyond that information, I do that we don't need to know anything else about the individual. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Thank you.
Matt, jumping off of Peter's question about that. So if I'm understanding correctly, via FERPA and COPA, we just need to ensure that logins, things of that nature, are following those protocol or those laws, et cetera, and everything is encrypted, protected, et cetera. But okay, so my next question bouncing off of that one is, will school administrators, principals, assistant principals, et cetera, do they have to, is it a requirement for them to have access to the reports and data on student progress, as well as Kentucky Financial Empowerment Commission?
So I believe it would be important to the superintendents and it will be important to the superintendents, the schools specifically, and the instructors to know that information in case they are including this education as a part of a grade of a course, but we need to be respectful of privacy laws and requirements, though.
Right. Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions all around. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and so Matt, Peter, and Richard asked 2/3 of my question. Again, with the login and the assessments, you have a need, to put it in my language too, or the way I'm thinking, a need to be able to identify progress to a particular student at the teacher or school level, and then aggregated data maybe at the district and KYFEC level.
Correct.
And with it, given that we follow all the correct privacy and what have you.
Correct, and that is outlined in better detail and more legal jargon in the proposal that would be uploaded following this webinar.
Great, and I apologize if that was a little convoluted. I was trying to fill in the gaps between what Richard asked and what Peter asked.
Yes, no, I understand what you're saying.
Oh, sorry. Matt, I did have another question. Is the intent for this program to be teacher-led, or for it to be the onus of learning on the individual student. In other words, it doesn't need a teacher. Is there one or the other or both?
So that the latter is the answer there. And to be clear on that front, it should be student-led, and that's why we're saying an online asynchronous financial literacy education, where the teacher will be able to say, hey guys, we're taking the last 20 minutes of every Thursday class to complete the financial literacy module that we are working through, and it will be student-led in that manner.
Got it. Thank you.
So teachers, sorry, go ahead, Alyssa.
Thank you. To add on to that, I completely understand the asynchronous student-led piece. What about for initial access and login? Would that need to be completely student-led, or if the teacher said one time, this is how we log in, here's your code, would that be acceptable? Or you're saying from start to finish completely student?
So yes, thank you for the question, Alyssa. So the teacher is welcome to be as big of a part of it or as little of a part of it as that they would like to, and as little of a hand or as big of a hand as the provider would like to have in that. You are welcome to do that. The teacher is more than welcome to walk them through login at the beginning, but also troubleshoot after the fact as well, and any education that they can provide as well. But it's important that this can be done independently by the student because of differential resource access across the state.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Great question. Thank you.
I have another question around grades. Is this something that is then graded?
Yes.
For the student?
Yes.
And if, based on how we're talking about it right now, it sounds like the students would self-report their progress.
And so
if I'm understanding it correctly.
What I mentioned in your previous answer is that, that pre and post testing will be is very important to this, because we want to measure progress, and that should be done by the modules within the financial education platform provided.
Okay, so they would download almost like a certificate saying this is how the student did at the beginning on the first test and how they did after taking the course, and maybe it's a PDF or something like that, and that's something the student would potentially, in this scenario, send, the student would send to the teacher.
Sure.
Potentially.
Yeah, that is one way to do that, yes.
Matt, is it perfectly okay if we were to work with, let's say, some districts who use an SSO, a single sign-on, because they have, a power school or whatever it is, and we work with their district techs in order to use Clever, their single sign-on, and have access for every single child, et cetera, for all the high school students, et cetera. Is it okay for that to happen and not for each student to have to go in? Like if the district wants to just do a mass upload because they have all of that and we just want to get them onboarded quickly and every student is loaded in there, is that okay? Or does it have to be each student goes and logs in themselves and creates their own account?
Tracking progress is important to this because we want to make sure that there are measurables for understanding impact and quality of education too, because we want to know what we're doing is working. And so if that can be accomplished with that, then yes, but if not, I think that would have to be something outlined on how you could still track progress and the change in literacy at the start to the end.
Oh, Matt, it really was referring to just onboarding the kids, not really any of the reporting or any of that. That's completely separate. It's just, some districts have things that they've already had, the protocols and programs and, ed tech that they already have in place that we could use just to onboard the kids faster, and then they would have their, and then they would sign in with their single sign on, one click, and then they just go and do just like every other reading math program that they have at the district, et cetera. I was wondering if that was okay. And the data would still be the same, just onboarding them, if that would be okay to work with district technology people to get that done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matt, a quick question, if you would, going back to what you talked about earlier with equal access, regardless of internet capabilities, et cetera. Are you envisaging all of this work being done in the school environment, or the students doing some of it away, for instance, at home?
Did you say that again?
Yeah, so, and this is based on your statement earlier about how important the accessibility was, given that people would have different levels of access.
Mhm.
Are you envisaging students using this solely in a school environment, or maybe from home or a library or somewhere like that as well?
I think it could exist in any of those settings, and because this could be assigned for homework, that it really is up to the school's discretion on how to implement it. And so if this is homework, it might be completed outside of school. But if this is a component of what is accomplished in the classroom that day, then it could be accomplished. It could just be finished there when they're at school too. The note that I made earlier about accessibility differences is that there are a different amount of internet access. There's internet access is different across the state of Kentucky. And I'm not saying this is a non-negotiable thing, that's not what I'm trying to communicate whatsoever. I think it's just important to acknowledge I think it's important for the provider to acknowledge their ability to accommodate people of different resource backgrounds. And that's why we made the note about internet access in particular.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry to belabor this point, but it almost sounds like it would be that having like a workbook that contains basically the same modules in print would be a welcome thing as well.
I can't comment on if that would be like best practice or not.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate the questions. It's also important to know that we said online asynchronous, right? So it could be an online workbook of some sort. That is one way you could do that. Sure.
Could you repeat the last sentence for me, Matt?
An online workbook is one way that you could offer the online financial education.
Got you. The word workbook, online and workbook didn't go together immediately for me.
No worries.
Got you.
All right. Well, if no one has any questions, my information is still up on the screen. You're welcome to call or email me. I will note again that all questions asked to me, including the ones on this webinar, will be uploaded to the FAQ section that is on our website. This webinar will be uploaded on there as well. And before 5 p.m. Eastern time today, the RFP will be posted online, as well as the submission link for it, and the letter of intent for the first stage of the process is due on December 17th, 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Matt.
All right, take care, everyone.